Sharon or something like that.
Because we don't want a young cat. We don't want a young cat, because then I'll end up with a cat.
Oh, no, you want to adopt an elderly
Yeah,
cat?
did you just say you're looking for a cat?
Not a young one,
Oh, okay.
a senior cat. My father wants a cat.
Oh, I'll get you a senior cat, no problem.
One that, when my father.
All right, we're live, just so everyone's aware. Good evening. Today is Monday, October 17th, 2022. It's 7 p.m. Before we start, the town of Winchester sends its condolences to the city of Bristol and our thoughts and prayers. Can we have the call to order?
Candace Bouchard.
Jonathan Morehart.
Candy Perez.
Josh Kelly.
Todd Archelashi.
Glenn Albanesius. Stephen Sedlak.
Linda Grappo.
Thank you. Can we have pledge allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda review, is there anything that needs to be added? Jack Bork is excused. Seeing nothing that needs to be added to the agenda, can we have an approval of the minutes from our regular meeting on October 3rd?
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Candace. Any discussion? Corrections? All in favor of the minutes from October 3rd? 6-0, unanimous, thank you. Josh?
So we have two new members of the town staff here just to briefly introduce themselves to the Board of Selectmen tonight. So first on our list, we have Tom Herschel. If you'd like to come to the front, sit down with us and tell us a little bit about who you are, your background, and your first few weeks on the job, please.
Just talk into the microphone so they can hear you on the camera.
Oh, you can use the podium if that's easier.
Test, test.
Yep.
All good.
First time I've heard someone actually work.
Excellent. Well, thank you. I'd like to thank the board first off. Gotta say, it's a little intimidating here. It's a semicircle, a lot of eyes. Yes, my name is Tom Herschel. I am the new budget analyst and grants manager for the town of Winchester. I'm very happy, very excited to be a part of this team. Relatively new to the public sector, I gotta say that. My experience was in the nonprofit sector. I was working with a nonprofit out in Hartford, working with disadvantaged youth. Hartford's proud drill, drum, and dance corps. It's a bit of a long name. Out there, I was doing some of their grant writing as well, grant management, general administrative assistance work, and here I am. I just finished my master's degree at UConn, and looking forward to public sector life. So I welcome any questions, and I'm looking forward to working with everybody here.
On the board.
What was your master's in?
Public administration,
Thank you.
yes. It was a one-year program after my undergraduate studies.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Tom. I really appreciate it. And we also have with us tonight Lance Hansen, who's joining us as our new town planner. So, Lance, if you want to come switch out with Tom, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your background and
Thank you to the board.
first couple weeks on the job.
Thank you.
Well, first, thank Tom for going first. Hello, everyone. So my name is Lance Hansen. I am from the town of Canton, just out neighboring town. And my wife is a teacher in West Hartford. So I originally grew up in Colchester, Connecticut, but we moved to Canton for her in West Hartford. And I've worked for DEP/DEEP on and off for about 32 years. I started right out of high school with the Parks Department, and then went into the Greenways program, which it was a pilot project at the time from the task force from John Rowland's Blue Ribbon Task Force. That was excellent. I had a wonderful opportunity working with all the municipalities, going around and doing public hearings and talking with them, their greenway projects. So that was a great experience for me, just to get out and meet a lot of people in towns. And then I came back again and worked for the Land Acquisition Division, and the Possum Project, you may be familiar with, is protected open space mapping. So we went around different town halls and collected survey information, deed information, basically trying to get a handle on land trust properties, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. Some things didn't always get considered as open space, but we collected a lot of information actually, and we were trying, and it was right at the same time that the Plan of Conservation and Development had, like the late 90s when it was becoming mandatory for towns to do. So the state wanted to have a good handle on that. And my most recent was with the Wildlife Division. You're like, why did that happen? Well, I was with Land Acquisition and had GIS mapping skills, and they needed that. So I ended up moving over to Wildlife, which is not my background. I'm not a biologist, but now I can answer anything about wildlife you have a question about. That was a great experience, and pretty much working from the Hartford office, 79 Elm, the entire time. I'll leave you with 3 things as a first impression to remember me by. So I'm a huge advocate for open space conservation, as you probably could have just guessed. I think Winchester is doing very well, but more opportunities for sure. So that's one thing that I feel very strongly about. Second, communities start at the sidewalk, not just a hashtag. I live by that. You know, this town is amazing, the fact that it's completely walkable. I can walk from one side of Winstead to the other in about 20 minutes. Is it encouraging the walking at Winstead right now? That's debatable, but it is possible. So I'm very excited that that is something that could be really an asset for town. And we'll sideline right into tourism, which I think is another thing that Winchester really could be offering more of. And then last, and this is one I've just personally experienced, and you're gonna say, Lance, you're just seeing town through rosy-colored glasses, and the answer is, I don't think so. Winstead is the friendliest small city in Connecticut. I'm going on record. And the reason I say that is because every time I've driven around just to explore and get a sense of it, try it yourself. Wave to people, see what their reaction is. Nobody's gonna look at you and say, who the heck was that guy? Everybody waves back and smiles. That's something special in this town. So I'm very excited to be here. I hope you can tell I have a lot of energy. I have had excellent experience so far this second week, so I'm really new. The staff I'm working with at the moment is terrific. I jokingly said Ted Schaefer is polite, pushy, and I'm really enjoying working with him on some economic development proposals for town. And Michael, who's inland wetlands, has been wonderful. Just I'm amazed how quickly he's learned the job and being relatively new himself. He can rattle off statute or the regulations, so I'm hoping to get to that point. Pam is wonderful. Pam has been terrific in working with me as the public comes in and lets me shadow and just kind of listen in. So I'm working mostly with them. Bill and I just today from building for the first day worked together, and then Steve's kind of been in and out, but he did go take me out on Friday for one of his calls. And I have to admit, I have no experience with fire marshal. In my previous planning, I've never had that experience, so that will be new for me. But same thing, I hope you don't, but if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask, and then otherwise I'm sure I'll be seeing you many more times.
Anyone from the board?
Yep. The GIS mapping.
Yeah.
So will you be redoing our entire GIS mapping?
Did Jim Rollins ask you to say that?
Absolutely not.
So the answer is I have the digitizing skills. I haven't used them in a while, but my most recent is just using the data layers, but I know how to get them. So, and there's a lot of them available from UConn, which I think would benefit town, and also DEEP, obviously, for the layers. I've already used Natural Diversity Database on some things, so.
So we'll pretty much be scrapping what we have and starting fresh?
No, I don't know if that's necessary, but.
Yeah, I don't know how accurate it is.
Yeah, the parcel layer, I would admit, is a little rough. And it's unfortunate, even at the state level, they had a cartographer who did a lot of the original parcels, so you can use them for planning purposes, but you can't use them to justify. You need the A2 survey.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Anyone else?
Lance, is there a thing right on top for you you can't wait to get started on?
Ooh, good question.
Well,
Am I allowed to say?
Which one are you going to say? That
You know I'm going to say the Pocket Park.
there you go.
So
We've
I
had some
think.
conversations.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So I think it's 506 Main Street.
508.
508, thank you. That has some great potential. And we've been there as a team, and I've been there 2 or 3 times since. I'm just getting a really good sense of the feeling. Everybody I'm asking, I'm like, hey, the town owns a 3-story building next door. What do you want? What would you drive into town to come for? So I think that will be a neat kickoff, personally, for a lot of things we're talking about for Main Street.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks.
Lance, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Got your work cut out for you.
I'm excited. You know, I think everybody says, oh, Winsted and Winchester has great potential, but I feel it already just from meeting with residents. I went on the cemetery walk this weekend. I can feel it. The people are waiting for something good, and it's almost there. So I hope to be a part of it. That's why I wanted to come aboard. And I won't cry in front of you, but I am an emotional fella, so thank you. Thanks. Okay.
Josh, thank you for bringing in, Lance and Tom, because I think this, with such turnover that we've had over the last couple of years, it's important for us to put faces with the names.
I couldn't agree more. And there is another member of the town staff that wished to be here tonight, Bill Petroface. But as you heard, this was his first day back after a lengthy ailment, and I think you can all imagine that he wanted to give you all a little space as well as himself.
Tom, welcome to you too. You have enormous shoes to fill, so good luck with that.
Thank you.
Moving on to citizens' comments, the Board of Selectmen welcomes public comments. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes and may speak only once. Anyone wish to speak? John?
Yes, John Weirda, 16 Superior Street. I noticed last week they were hooking up the new charging stations at Bank of America. I just wondered, are they operational yet?
They're not operational yet, but they should be easily by the end of the month to accept, and they'll accept credit card. That's what the upgrade is over at the
Okay.
Bank of America building.
All right. And the next question, no, all right, not the next question, but the next topic. I had a chance to go over to a company called Earthlight Technologies last Saturday. It was their open house. They invited me. And we had one of the representatives at our our Conservation Commission meeting last Thursday. It's a tremendous place. It's right off 83, or on 83. And what they've done is they've put a building up that's not net zero, but carbon neutral. What that does is they have 15 geothermal wells on their property, and they balance it out versus what they buy from the utility and what they put back from the utility. So that at the end, it's practically net zero, but they still have to buy some power from the utility, which is Eversource, but they give Eversource back power as well. And it's totally clean. There's no fossil fuels involved, and just geothermal wells, and that's it. And of course, solar.
So is it a new building they built, or is it a retrofitted
No,
building?
it's a new building they built.
Thank you.
What's the name again, John?
Earthlight.
Earthlight.
Yeah. They're basically in this section of the Northeast, Connecticut, Massachusetts, surrounding area, but they're also on the West Coast in Oregon as well.
So what do? You're talking about how they're showcasing how they create a facility that is carbon neutral, or what do they
Right,
produce?
But they also do energy assessments.
Okay,
They can install, you can buy them from them and sell solar panels.
right.
And they can do the whole 9 years. If you want an assessment to see what you're gonna need, they can do that. They can install it, service it.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? David?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is David LaPointe. I reside at 11 Hillside Avenue. I just want to say Cadillac said in regards to the two young men here who work for the town of Winchester. I, as a citizen, had interaction with both, and it was a pleasure to have interaction with them in regards to some issues that I questioned them on, and they were helpful. So, as Stephen said, you know, it's good to know the people with the faces. And I wanted to speak tonight for those who cannot speak. And to quote Proverbs 31:8, speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Good Lord, I am asking to make all of you, selectmen as well as the town manager and all the employees of this town, to be advocates for those who cannot speak for themselves. Help them, Lord, to speak for the young men and the young women who, under the shadow of drug abuse, who need help to advocate for their freedom from that abuse, drug abuse, for the homeless men and women in this city, which I know that the town manager sincerely cares for, as much as he cares for cats, which is a good thing too. Give them all courage to speak for women who are neglected and abused at the hands of any angry and sinful men. Give them the courage to stand up for those in their circle of friends who are buried with mountains of debt, insecurity, grief, and sin. Make them an encourager for those people and a friend who seeks their good at the expense of their own. Make them a voice louder than the injustices that are around them. So I ask this in Jesus Christ, our Lord's name, and that's my 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Anyone else wish to speak? Moving on to the town manager's report.
Thank you. I will try and keep this quick. I know we have a executive session to get to, and my first update will be that the supervisors have reached a tentative agreement with us, and that is something that we will be discussing in executive session and will also appear later on the selectmen's agenda for a vote. The bachelor school RFPs have been looked at, reviewed by town staff. Lance and I had the chance to go walk through the building so he could get a feel for it. And now those proposals are in your packet tonight, and we have an opportunity to continue discussions, not only at this meeting, but at meetings going forward. Communities Challenge Grant application was submitted, as well as the Reconnecting Communities Grant, which is a federal DOT program. Thank you very much for your help, Tom, in putting that together especially, but I know Lance as well, having their eyes on it, giving their input. That will hopefully lend itself to creating actionable construction, shovel-ready plans for Main Street, obviously with the review and approval of the Board of Selectmen as a plan is developed, but the goal of the funds would be to find a way to slow down traffic and increase parking on Main Street. Those are the only two goals, and I think that this grant application process really has the opportunity to lend some money to that effort. The job fair was supposed to be last week. It has been postponed to this Thursday, October 20th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. It will now be held inside one of the community college buildings rather than outside on the green. So rain or shine, this Thursday, October 20th, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. More information found on our website, or you can call in to my office and learn a little bit more. Lastly, we're going through assistant tax collector, assistant assessor, and assessor job applications. I want the board to know that there are few applications that we're reviewing that have any municipal experience, never mind experience in an actual assessor's office or with assessing or in tax collection. But that being said, the review is going forward. I think that there are candidates in the pools that have the capacity to learn the positions. And I expect that we may be making hires in those areas within a short period of time. That's all that I'll share right now, but I'll take any questions that you might have before we go into executive session.
Anyone from the board have a question?
Do we have any updates from the police chief on the cat?
So I don't have any updates from the police chief on the cats. I did speak with the police chief this past weekend about the fact that the city of Bristol has been reaching out to nearby communities for assistance. He's been in communications over the shooting that occurred tragically last week.
That had nothing to do with it. Last I spoke with the chief, it was the Superior Court in Litchfield.
No, I'm sorry. This is another matter that I was speaking of. The shooting that occurred and the fact that our police department has been trying to offer logistical support to the city of Bristol in their time of need. So that's the update that I have from the chief of police. I don't have an update related to the cats at all.
You don't have anything, status from what the courts,
It is currently in the hands of
the court,
the
Superior
state's
Court.
attorney's office.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none. It is 7:22, and we'll be going to executive session. We'll return after executive session. We'll go over to the blue room.
Invite.
To make a motion?
Can we have a motion to go to executive
So
session?
moved.
Taking the town manager.
Seconded.
And the top,
And
and
the,
the labor
and the
attorney.
labor
Labor
attorney.
attorney.
Go to the blue room. All in favor?
Aye.
6-0. Sure. I have a brother, John, and my father was John.
And he was mayor?
Yes.
Okay, I saw a video from 25 years ago of him. Very good speaker, by the way.
The name is probably,
Went to school. There's something you should all remember is all the microphones are on and it's all being recorded live. Just FYI. Especially after last, okay?
How you doing? Good. Good. Good to see you again. I'll give you a mic. Go grab some dinner. righteous with a R-I-G.
H-T-E-O-U-S.
Thank you.
Yep.
How you doing? Good. a salad too. Baked potato, chopped burger, salad, $1.79.
Trying to think.
Children's meal was 79 cents. I'd go, my sister, my mother, my grandpa, my grandmother.
That's going way back.
1970. Bonanza on Woolcott Street. There was a Bonanza also down in
Torrington, wasn't there? Or no?
Bristol.
Okay,
That I don't know about Torrington.
right,
There might have been.
yeah. Maybe it wasn't Bonanza.
It was like Ponderosa maybe.
Yeah,
But Ponderosa came after Bonanza.
yep. That was around for years. $1.79.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my friends, his father was the manager of McDonald's, and he was a World War II veteran, and he escaped the Nazis. He was a prisoner of war, but he escaped them, and he became the manager, and he treated everybody in there like they were in the army. But it ran, he would take us kids through the drive-through when they had it. And then he'd have a scale to measure the quarter pounder. I mean,
Was this in Waterbury?
in Waterbury,
Yeah.
on Lakewood Road.
Yeah.
And then, I remember this, going when he'd ask my mom, can I take David with my kids to McDonald's? And she goes, sure, you're the manager, right? He goes, yeah, I'm off today, but I'm taking them all to McDonald's. So that's when it was real beef, from America. And I remember in his car, they didn't have the computer system like they have now, so he had a ticket with all the prices on it, and they'd have to check so he had it already filled out, because he had one of those pads. Well, I asked him, could I have one of those pads? He said, sure, he gave me one. I still have it to this day. And the prices, were 15 cents.
Yep.
25 cents for,
Yep.
cheeseburger. And, so you look at the prices back then, when I was a kid, versus what they are now,
Right.
and they're just off the chart.
Yeah.
It's,
My dad, a couple times a year, we would go to the McDonald's on the Berlin Turnpike. That was
a big treat.
50 years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a big treat.
Because they didn't have them all around like they do now.
That was one of the,
First ones.
from what I understand, it's one of the first ones.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's still in the same
Place.
location.
Well, the first one in Waterbury was on Thomaston Avenue. So that was the very first one, and it didn't have any indoor dining. It was like what Dairy Queen is.
Right.
So you'd have to walk up.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it wasn't no indoor dining.
Yeah, I think you're right about
This
the
was
one
in the
in,
60s. Because I remember I was only 4 years old, 1968, going with my sister.
yeah.
And we went to that one. 'cause
I don't
the
think there
only
was
one
any,
in
yeah,
Waterbury.
you had to drive up to the one on the Berlin Turnpike too, yeah.
So it was like the old fashioned, chicks down in
Yeah.
Haven, West Haven. Like you walk up
Right.
and the picnic tables were outside.
$5 fed a family.
Yeah, and I remember going to Long Island, and my mom and my great aunt would stop at White Castle, and they were 10 cents for a burger, steamed burger.
Yep.
And then 15 cents for the cheeseburger. Hey, John, see you later. Okay, good seeing you. Yeah, take care.
Night, John.
And you could eat, like, while I was a kid, I could eat.
Yeah, those were the smaller,
Yeah,
the small
small
ones,
steamed
yeah.
ones,
Yeah,
with some onions on it.
Yeah.
Ketchup.
they're good. You can get them in a box now, frozen.
Yeah, that's not the same.
Not the same, no.
It's not the same like the baby. Before the pandemic, group that I'm involved with, Police and Firemen for Christ, we
she back this way now?
Oh,
Still?
yeah. She's, you know, changed her whole lifestyle.
How long did it take to come cross-country?
She told me, I forgot.
Yeah.
But I would.
Straight through though, huh?
Yeah, but see, this was before the pandemic, you don't need any license or anything. You can just jump on a bus, and that's it, you buy the ticket.
Right.
So, her father, sent her the money, and, we were able to pick her up,
Yeah.
and, it was quite the day. It was a big trip, He's an officer, retired, so.
No, just a bit. We've returned from executive session at 8 o'clock. We'll act on that at the end during new business. Is Anne Marie here?
Anne Marie is not here to give a finance director's report.
Okay. Do you want me to write that or just?
If anybody has questions on the finance director's report as it's been presented to you in writing, if you wouldn't mind, you can certainly share them now or during selectmen's comments, or share them with me by email, whatever the case is, and certainly I'll pass them all on to Anne Marie. There was a finance committee meeting, I know, this past Thursday, so hopefully a lot of questions were answered. Beyond that, she's always available to make herself available to you. So, apologies that I don't have a more substantial audible report.
Jonathan would like to go to the hall and come right back.
I left some documents back there.
Oh, of course.
Can I just go quick?
Basically, everything's on target.
Yeah,
The finance stuff's all on target.
it is, and it's in line with last year. There are really no unexpected hiccups.
And the bank accounts are all either invested or sitting there to be used, like in the writing checks.
Yep.
So in a sense, this means that the last year's budget is in balance at this point with these transfers.
Yes, we have one more set of transfers that you'll be considering tonight, and that would round out any imbalances that we currently have.
All right, seeing no questions? Moving on to correspondence. Does anyone have anything? I see nothing on correspondence. Boards and commissions. Steve?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Todd. We have a couple of items to take care of here. First of all, in terms of appointments, at our last meeting, we approved Kevin O'Connell as a alternate member of EDC, as he wished. And tonight, we're going to fill that alternate position. I'm sorry, Kevin O'Connell moved from alternate to,
No.
from permanent to alternate member, and tonight, I'd like to move that we approve the appointment of Shane Deschamps to the Economic Development Commission, moving from alternate member to permanent member, term to expire in April of '23. So that would be my motion.
Second.
Thank you, Candace. That term is correct for Kevin O'Connell as well? April 27?
Yes.
All in favor? Unanimous, thank you.
And two reappointments also to the Planning and Zoning Commission. First of all, I move that we reappoint George Clausen as a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission. His term to expire in October of 2027. George is currently the chairman.
Second that.
Thank you, Candace. All in favor? Candy, sorry.
We're interchangeable.
Were you in favor, Linda, or?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Unanimous. Next.
Next, I move to reappoint Peter Marchand as a member of Planning and Zoning Commission, a term to expire in October of '27.
I second that motion.
Thank you, Candace. All in favor? Unanimous?
Okay, and the only other item there, we took care of thanking Laura Green, who's not going to continue as a member of the Architectural Review Committee. So that would be the report.
And Todd, just to add in there, the Architectural Review Committee, just for those of you who weren't aware, is appointed by the Planning and Zoning Commission per their regulations. So that you're aware of what's happening with that committee, I'll make sure that information gets passed along to you about when appointments are being considered occur and when resignations occur, just like this. But just for all future reference, that will be a Planning and Zoning Commission appointment.
So that would then be a part of their monthly minutes.
Yes, it should be.
And continuing with boards and commissions, the Board of Assessment Appeals has one opening. Conservation Commission has one opening. Architectural Review has 2. Laurel City Commission has 5 openings. And Economic Development has 1 opening. So if anyone's interested, information on how to apply is on the town website. Moving on to unfinished business. Item A, the Blight Fund policy.
Thank you, Todd. So when we spoke about this at the last meeting 2 weeks ago, there were a couple of comments that were made by the board, and I've tried to, in the current draft of this that's in front of you, incorporate those proposed changes, namely changing the title of the fund policy in its entirety from Blight and Beautification Fund to Anti-Blight Fund. I think that it comes across, it's very straightforward. We know what its purpose is. It still does allow for the Board of Selectmen to authorize specific uses, but I believe that this is a straightforward policy that gives very explicit instructions to me as the town manager to use the money that is collected from the anti-blight ordinance in the mission of continuing to adhere to the anti-blight ordinance so that it supports itself to that extent. So I would ask if the board is comfortable with the fund policy as it currently stands, that the Board of Selectmen move to adopt the policy. And if there are any needed changes, to let me know now and further consideration can be made.
I didn't ask this before. Do we identify in this policy the line item where the funds go to?
No, but I do have that information if you'd like it. I also do have a year-to-date accounting if you would like. I don't know if everybody had the chance to see that in their email, but I do have a hard copy of it here available to you.
I just wonder if it's needed. I don't know.
I don't believe it's needed as long as it's the same account that's being used.
Right.
And it is a singular anti-blight fund.
Well, the purpose to do this was to just make sure that the blight funds that we had before, there was nothing that said what the town manager could or could not do with the money, or what the selectmen could or could not do with the money, and now that's why this was made, is to address the issue of being able to take care of what you need to do on a, well, take care of things that are falling down or are dangerous to people on a blighted property, versus, things that when the fund got to an amount, to maybe be able to use some other things. Because I think that the fund, in our category of other uses, I think it's, important that we remember that when we try to fix our town buildings in our capital fund, that any of the money that we have that could help with maintaining our buildings would be like really good. Or even things like, you wanted to, do some pre-drawings of, like the public works and stuff like that. I think money from the blight fund, if it's not needed for taking care of safety issues in blight, or the attorney fees, or other fees that are needed with the actual blight could be used for something to help offset additional monies that we might need for that. So, but it does, give the Board of Selectmen the right to, weigh in on larger amounts of money. And like any policy, the policy is for right now, but policies can be amended and changed going forward. So if we run into something, we certainly can change it.
Yeah, this isn't an ordinance,
No, it is not.
right?
I foresee this more as a road map. If anybody even still uses road maps.
Oh, I do.
What would the effective date be?
Because it's not an ordinance, the effective date would be, if you so chose, tomorrow. If you saw fit to adopt it today, your motion could read that the Board of Selectmen moves to adopt the fund policy as presented, effective immediately.
Let's see here. So in our capital improvement plan, we have, at the end of the year, we're allowed to adjust any unexpended monies. So this doesn't have a time limit as to where you determine an opportunity to use the money for something else.
I think you said it in the bottom of the .6.
Is 0.6?
0.6% of the budget, one of the last things in there.
Yep. The total amount of money in the anti-blight fund if the total amount of money in the anti-blight fund exceeds 0.6% of the town's total currently adopted operating budget, up to an amount totaling the difference between 0.6% of the town's totally currently adopted operating budget and the amount in the anti-blight fund may be transferred into a different account by a majority vote of the Board of Selectmen.
Oh, right.
Do we have any further discussion on this?
I'd like to move that we adopt the anti-blight fund policy effective October 18, 2022, the policy as presented.
Thank you, Steve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Linda. Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item B, Freedom of Information Act Draft Ordinance.
So when we last met on this item, we were having a conversation about policies, not dissimilar from the anti-blight fund policy that related to the Freedom of Information Act. So in an effort to make sure that all components of this are being adopted in a manner that's consistent with the charter and with the ordinances, fee schedule in particular really needs to be adopted by ordinance. So in an effort to move forward with all components of, as we discussed last time, the policy that really should be in place that codifies and reinforces the state's requirements of town employees as it pertains to the Freedom of Information Act. I'm proposing that 2 items be considered and adopted. The first, the policy that you reviewed last time, that's really a procedure that the town needs to institute and, under my direction, will be instituted. But the component that the Board of Selectmen really needs to weigh in on and needs to do so through the adoption of an ordinance, given the charter, is the fee schedule. So you'll see here there are a few, and by a few I mean precisely 4 different sections to this proposed draft ordinance in front of you. Most of it just giving context for Section 3, which is the fee schedule. The fee schedule is identical in what's proposed in front of you as to the fee schedule that you reviewed at last week's meeting. So no surprises here. At this point in time, however, the town attorney has not reviewed this draft ordinance. I put this together. And what I would ask first, this is the first of 3 meetings that the Board of Selectmen has and needs to review and consider this ordinance. But second, I would ask that the Board of Selectmen, if you're interested in pursuing this ordinance, direct me to send this to the town attorney for review, so that his comments can be made available to you at your next meeting, which would be on Monday, November 7th. Just to say a little bit more, I know that we've had discussions as a group at previous dates and times about fees related to the Freedom of Information Act. I know that there's something to be said on all sides of this question, but I think that it is important to have fees associated with particular components of the Freedom of Information Act, namely with requests that take up an extraordinary amount of the town's time or other resources, including but not limited to paper and ink, plain and simple. This fee schedule would allow for easily accessible documents to be provided free of charge, as well as documents that relate to one's own property to be made available at a low cost. So I believe that all of this is in line with the state law. This is something that is permissible under state law, and I believe that it's better for the town to have a policy in place as adopted by an ordinance than to leave the question hanging.
So these fees are in line with what the state,
Yes, and Kevin will confirm that in his review.
So just to be clear, we are suspending a vote right now of approval until Kevin looks at it?
no.
No.
So for the ordinance adoption process, per the town's charter and ordinances, we do have to have the Board of Selectmen review it for a period of 3 meetings. So this would be the first of 3. And for the next meeting, so the second time that you'd review it, you'd have the town attorney's comments. So that way you can review, discuss those, and at your 3rd meeting, finally be ready for adoption. So if we proceed and the board is interested in adopting this as presented, more or less, the earliest this could be adopted would be at the regular meeting on Monday, November 21st.
So I'm gonna make a motion that, that the Board of Selectmen have the intention to create a, what do we call it?
New ordinance.
A new ordinance, Freedom of Information Act, as step 1 of introducing a new ordinance into our ordinance manuals and whatnot. So it could be a little bit better.
And to authorize the town manager to share this with the town attorney for review.
And then, I mean, it automatically goes to the second step. Like,
Yep.
what I was trying to find in my email was the steps for the adoption, because when we used to adopt ordinances, there used to be the steps attached to it in our packet, so that it was very clear what we were doing with it. So I'm sure that Terry has it up on her computer, so the next time that this comes forward to us to the next meeting, because we're saying that we're going to, we're giving notice that we are considering adopting a new ordinance.
Yep.
And that, then the next step would be to have it checked out by Kevin, and it comes back to us, and then we want to adopt again. We say, yes, we want to continue to go through, and at the 3rd meeting, then we would go to the adoption. But the first one is the notification that we are considering adopting it.
Do we have a second?
That is eloquent as I should be with that.
I'll second.
Okay, do you have a motion? For the most part.
See if I do.
Further discussion? Josh, can you clarify exactly what self-copying documents would entail?
Photographing or self-copying, you're right, that is perhaps something that should be better, the self-copying itself should be better defined, but creating any sort of image or facsimile of a document without removing the document itself from the premises of Town Hall. So generally speaking, we usually see someone with a cell phone taking pictures. That's the most common version, but there are also handheld scanners, wireless remote scanners that can be brought in that would be considered to be a photography or self-copying device. We can work on language to better define that.
And my next question would be, what about voice copying a document?
voice copying, as in pressing record on a voice recorder
recorder
and
and
then
then
reading
reading.
it to yourself.
Yes.
I don't think that would be covered in here. Now, that being said, with the way that the Freedom of Information Act reads, anything that is greater than $10, any request that would cost more than $10 for the town to produce does need to be paid in advance of the documents being released or made viewable. And that would be, again, codified here within the ordinance. So what I would say to that is if somebody's looking to see an easily accessible document, that would be made available to them free of charge under the policy anyways. If they're looking for an archived document, we would have them walk through that step, and if they chose to read it into the record themselves, you know, a recorder themselves, we wouldn't make them pay extra for that. But they would be, any applicable fees under the schedule would still be applied to their case, and the document wouldn't be made available until such a time that they paid, if it was more than $10 in value.
Okay.
If you're asking for a one-sheeter, though, it's, it's not gonna be $10 value.
Thank you. Any other discussions?
No, maybe for the next time when we meet, it would be helpful to know how many FOI requests there have been and some data around that.
Yep.
Like how many this year, how many, I know sometimes real estate agencies request all the freedom of information, through Freedom of Information, the list of all the properties owned in town. That sometimes happens, and, so, yeah, how many freedom of information requests have there been? Any agency or individual with multiples? Don't need names, just need the data.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, can we have a vote to move this to step 2 into the town attorney? All in favor? Opposed? 6-0. Thank you. Moving on to item C, 22-56, proposed line item transfers.
So there's one transfer in front of you tonight. I put it on your desk immediately before this meeting started. So this is a carryover. Obviously, it's unfinished business. This is a carryover from the last meeting. I asked that this vote be put off because I was looking, and for some reason the description did not appear in the last version of this that you received, the description of what each line item was referencing. So now you have those descriptions in front of you. The request at hand, the total transfer, proposed transfer, is $6,273.00. And it would take $4,943.20 from the Walker Field scoreboard. There was a surplus in that account. The electrical upgrades have been made to that, and the total cost did not amount to the total that we had feared, really. And an additional $1,329.80 from Fund 15, the Recreation Round Fund, for cost overages on the dugout, and moving it into three different projects. So first, to the recreation mower, which did go over budget by $199 even. A new recreation tractor, which went over by $1,350. And then the dugout project has gone over by a more sizable amount. All of this due to inflation. But the grand total request for transfer is $6,273. And I recommend that in order to make all of these lines neutral and not in deficit, that the transfers be approved as presented.
Do we have a motion?
Oh, I got some questions.
Okay.
Sorry about this. The dugouts.
Yep.
I'm okay with the transfer to the mowers and that other piece of equipment, but I do have a question on the dugouts. The Public Works Department did work on some of the dugouts, and they charged the town some funding, some money to do that. So I've asked Josh that we have Public Works, and Public Works, they have money in the budget for the workers. And then we also have money in the capital account for the dugouts. So when Public Works charges money to do the dugouts, where does that money then go? So if there, so we provide cash, right? We provide taxpayer, revenues to pay for the dugout. The Public Works is charging some money for part of the work at the dugout, not the fencing and not what that other company is doing. So where does that, when we pay Public Works, where is that money going? Because we already put revenue to it, so where's it going? I understand the accounting piece, I understand that people want to account for the full amount of the dugout, but we have labor in lieu of, I guess you would say, paying, unless where does that money go? So when we start to transfer this, I'd like to know where that goes.
And I did get that question from you before the meeting started. Our Director of Finance was not in today, and I was not able to ask her that question herself. I am able to ask that question of her after this meeting and tomorrow when she's in, either in an effort to answer the question before you vote on this, or to answer your question after you vote on this transfer. My assumption, and I may be wrong on this, but given that most of our revenues that are taken in go directly to the general fund, my assumption would be that it would be a general fund account that it's going into and not the Public Works account. I would need to get an answer from Anne Marie in order to
Right, so.
be any more specific.
Right, so, just so everybody's clear, this isn't the first time I've asked this question, in terms of the money there. And so, I didn't know if it was going in Public Works to do like a road or some other thing. I understand why we pay for gravel, I understand why we pay for, any materials that are needed on that particular thing. So I'm just, I guess I would be more comfortable knowing the answer to that before we put money into the dugout. Like I said, I'm perfectly fine with moving the money to the mower and the tractor, but the dugout, I think I'd like to know that answer. Because the money will still be there. The revenue item is still gonna be moving around somewhere.
If we were to table this, would that have any effect on the audit?
Again, that's another question that I would really need Anne Marie here to answer with full clarity. I imagine that she would certainly like us to have a motion to move money into the new mower and new tractor accounts at the very least. Try and get as much done as you're comfortable with. And certainly at the next meeting, I'll have as much information as you need about the dugouts.
I don't think it would impact the audit because they audit certain things. They may not audit, these accounts at this time, so I don't know that would impact an audit.
So we could take from the Walker Field scoreboard surplus $199 for the new mower and $1,350 for the new tractor, leaving money still in that, leaving money in the surplus account.
Right.
And get those two off the table, and then just the money later. So I'll make a motion that we take, I'm gonna do it in two motions. $199 from line 1790812-100-2302-40, Walker Field scoreboard surplus of $199 to recreation new mower 1790812-100-2301-000, $199.
Do we have a second?
Second that.
Thank you, Steve. Further discussion? All in favor?
While I'm
Unanimous?
doing this, you could do the whole thing too. I'm just the one that'll sit here and abstain. But the rest of you are free to do it if you want. I'll make a motion to take $1,350 from Walker Field scoreboard surplus, same lines as before, the 1790812s, to recreation new tractor, 1790812 account, same account, of $1,350.
Seconded.
Thank you, Jonathan. All in favor? Unanimous? Okay, would the rest of the board like to table the other two, or put a motion
Move the rest be tabled?
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Steve. In favor? 6-0. Item D, the housing plan adoption.
This item came before you at the last meeting, where there was a presentation made by Jocelyn Iyer, who's the consultant who's been working with us, first through the COG, more recently through the Housing Collective, to write this total plan and prepare it for your review. So this plan has gone through months, almost a year, or just about a year, of review under a committee. It went through a full review, which included multiple meetings with the Planning and Zoning Commission, a unanimous vote from the Planning and Zoning Commission that found that the plan was consistent with the Plan of Conservation and Development. And now, under state law, we are, regardless of how one feels about the state law that requires us to adopt a housing plan, we are required to adopt one. I believe that the plan that is before you tonight and was presented to you at the last meeting, there have been no edits made since then, is one that addresses a lot of our local issues, and that takes into account some of the issues that we heard come before the Planning and Zoning Commission, that were brought up in the various committee meetings, and that were even addressed by Jocelyn while she was here presenting to us at the last meeting. I believe that this housing plan is as robust as it can be and fits the character of the town of Winchester, and I would recommend that this Board of Selectmen move to adopt the housing plan tonight.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion, we adopt the housing plan as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you, Linda. What do we have for discussion? Any discussion on it?
I'll just say that a lot of work did go into this. Jocelyn was excellent with her explanation and clarification. She answered all our questions. We had a good team. It is a tool. It can be changed, and we do need to submit something. I think it's excellent, and I think we need to approve it.
Anyone else? This puts us in compliance with the state law, as Josh said, so I think that's a good place to be. Do we need to release the steering committee?
No, I will disband upon the adoption.
Can we have all in favor? Opposed? By one. And no abstentions. Moving on to new business. Vote to adopt the Supervisors Union Collective Bargaining Agreement. Josh?
So, for the public who wasn't in the, the executive session with us, sorry, thanks, Kirby. The supervisors in the town have come to an agreement on a contract. This contract has been expired since July 1st of 2021. So we have not had a contract for some time. It's very fortunate that they were willing to come to this agreement with us. So in front of us, over the whole state is seeing rising costs related with labor, and the whole state, subset of state labor is seeing a rise in their respective costs at home. So those two are rising together. Despite those rising costs, we've been able to secure relatively modest increases, including a 2.5% increase in fiscal year 22, 2.25 in fiscal year 23, a 2.25 in fiscal year 24, and a 2.5 in fiscal year 25. There are increases in health insurance premiums that are being seen by town employees, and that rounds out the major features of the contract. I recommend, as we discussed, that the supervisor's tentative agreement be adopted by the Board of Selectmen and that I be authorized to execute the contract with the Supervisors Union.
Do we have a motion?
Now, I'd like to move that we approve the collective bargaining agreement by and between the town of Winchester and the United Public Service Employees Union, Winchester Supervisors Association, for the dates July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2025.
Thank you, Steve.
and authorize the town manager to sign the agreement.
Do we have a second?
Second that motion.
Thank you, Candace. Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Moving on to item B, 22-57, discussions on the bachelor school RFP responses.
Thanks, Todd. So in front of you tonight, as you've been hearing for a few weeks now, we did receive 2 responses to the bachelor school requests for proposals. They come from 2 separate groups with 2 separate ideas in mind for how the premises should be used. The first submission that we received was from New James Food LLC. New James Food is interested in developing the lower structure of the bachelor school by creating a commercial kitchen for wholesale food and a distribution center. New James is also interested in rehabbing the upper part of the building and developing reasonable housing for employees and low-income families. The proposed upfront sale price from New James is $25,000, and the lot would become taxable under this proposal. The project is, they project 50 new jobs could be created at the site, and the remaining several acres of land are not referenced in their RFP response. The Northwest Senior Housing Corporation is the group that submitted the second response. They are the ones that currently oversee the small senior housing development that is up situated near the Winstead Health Center on Spencer Street. So the Northwest Senior Housing Corporation is proposing to adaptively reuse the bachelor school for housing, providing various housing options for Winchester seniors, young adults, and small families. They project that as many as 32 apartments could be created through this adaptive reuse of the school. The proposed upfront sale price from this firm is $300,000. They have expressed a willingness to enter into a payment in lieu of taxes pilot program that would yield the town 5% of their gross annual income, a specific amount not being listed. The Northwest Senior Housing Corporation has expressed an interest in working with the Winchester Land Trust to preserve the remaining wooded land on the property. So there are several things to keep in mind as you review these different RFP responses over the next couple months. First, considering zoning. We have a parcel right now that is located squarely within the town single-family zone. That means that there are any kind of single-family development would be permissible on this lot. However, there are a number of uses that aren't permitted and a number of uses that are allowable only through special permit. So some of the special permit uses include accessory apartments, affordable housing, bed and breakfast, cemetery, a club, a country inn, a school, and more, as you can list. This was shared online as well for any of you who are watching from home. Anything that is not located in that list is not allowed within the town single-family parcel. So light manufacturing is the closest use that we can find on the town's end to what New James Food LLC might be considered. That is not permissible within town single-family zone. That doesn't mean that there are certainly regulations, as we've heard today, whether it be a policy, regulation, ordinance, these things can be changed. There is certainly something to be said for that, given the fact that this is a proposal that's before you, but at the same time, there's also something to be said for keeping regulations the same, especially in the face of a single applicant that's coming before you. Affordable housing, the other proposal would most likely be classified as affordable housing, which is permissible but only through a special permit, which means that it's not an as-of-right development. So, in summary, from a zoning perspective, there are some challenges that might face each of these different applications. From an income perspective, the town stands to receive $25,000 from the sale of the building to New James Food and $300,000 from the Northwest Senior Housing Corporation. Certainly you can look at those numbers alone, but it's also important to think about ongoing costs and the ongoing costs of the town if a development is produced at this site by either of these firms. So on an ongoing basis, the town would receive property taxes directly from New James Food if that proposal was to move forward, and of course the zoning questions worked out, as opposed to receiving payment in lieu of taxes from the Northwest Senior Housing Corporation. there are merits to both of these applications, and I believe that they both are deserving of your attention and your time. What I would request from this meeting, certainly as much conversation as you see fit to have tonight, but I would ask that the Board of Selectmen consider whether or not they would like to interview the applicants themselves, and ask that they come before you at a future Board of Selectmen meeting. I'd be happy to set that up. I thought it would be premature of me to do that without asking for your direction. So that's the request that I have before you tonight, and once we either have those interviews or decide on a different course of action, we can proceed with other deliberations.
Well, I just have a question. These were requests for proposals, we didn't send it to bid.
No, this is
Right.
not a bid.
So, within this process, we don't have to take either or.
That's correct.
We can send it back out if we wanted to, correct?
That's correct. I do believe that they're worthy of time and consideration, but you do not have to accept either one.
Well, I know, I just wanna make sure we're all clear on.
Yep,
the whole
there are three options.
The whole process, not just either or.
Right.
And then, if we're gonna, one of the things I think, and I've been puzzling over this, I think we should have a meeting, like a little public meeting, and, you know, maybe even up there before it gets too cold, or, you know, because we have some heat there, but not a lot. And just have a public meeting and see what people are thinking about these two things. And I know that zoning, because I'd asked about that early on in this, about the zoning piece. I know it's hard in one, in the New Jane Foods, but this other one too, I'm trying to find it in the statement, but they are saying they don't need to have a special permit because it is affordable.
While
Because-
the affordable housing component of it is affordable housing, the light manufacturing on the site would not be permitted. So if New James' proposal was simply to put affordable housing on the property, that would be something that could be considered under a special permit. But as soon as you add in that food distribution and packaging center, it becomes light manufacturing.
I mean, yeah, so, and I don't think I personally don't need to have a proposal right now with it, you know, by having them come in. I don't, because I think I understand both projects. It's whether the New Jane Food would actually be able to happen, you know, considering the zoning. And then the other one, I just think we should have a larger conversation. Because this is gonna be decided by,
Not by
people
us.
voting, it's a
Right.
town it's a piece of property, it will go to town meeting. It is not decided by the Board of Selectmen, it is only recommended by us.
That's right.
And it doesn't have to include the extra acreage.
Right. That might be nice to keep as a town, you know, if we went with the housing proposal, instead of going off, maybe the town is given that land, and maybe recreation in the future, I don't know. I know it's steep in
building.
parts, maybe they do a adventure course, or, you know, some sort of, program with kids, you know, identifying things in the woods, and maybe that becomes a little tiny park or something.
Or a building lot.
Or you could do that too.
Were both of these aware of the structural shape of the building?
Yes, both had the opportunity to visit the building themselves. Both of them had the opportunity, and I personally walked through with one of the applicants. I know that others took the time to investigate the shape of the building.
That was
and-
in your description of the building too,
Yes.
when they were bidding on it.
Right, we're talking about a detailed 27-page RFP document that went out, and the full description was included with pictures. Both either submitted or reviewed plans and blueprints, so we know that they have a pretty firm grasp of the scope of the building that they're working with. You know, one of the options that we could move forward with that might provide the applicants with a little bit more of an opportunity to speak to you and to the public, and might give the public more of an opportunity to weigh in, would be to combine the interview with a public meeting, giving the applicants the opportunity, or the proposers the opportunity to speak directly to the public and receive feedback. I like your idea of a public meeting.
How about we set that up for our next meeting, the 7th of November?
Have you
Bill?
heard anything from the neighborhood where Bachelor of School is as to these proposals? Have you heard any feedback?
We haven't conducted any formal outreach to neighbors on these specific proposals,
And
but
no one has-
certainly if the board was interested, we could send an invite to all abutting properties, doubly abutting properties.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking about having it up at the school, was
And it's been in the newspaper.
the, when they're doing their presenting, one of the things that, I think this is a broader question more than the specifics. Like it's a broader discussion, light manufacturing, tax, property taxes versus, housing and, in lieu of. I think that's like a broader question. When they talk about it, they're gonna talk about their specific plans. And their specific plans, I think, are at this level versus up here, because I think we could all read what they specifically have proposed. So if they are going to do a presentation, I would ask that that be short and we have more discussion about, we had said earlier, we'd like it to be taxable, right? Or we'd like to have some money in lieu of. I mean, the $300,000 over time, over 10 years would be like $30,000 a year, or over 30 years would be $10,000 a year, if you look at it, from a equivalency there. So I think those, if we could, when we have this meeting, if it could be limited to, don't go into too much of their details of their project at the moment, because I think we have to think about the higher, the level above it, what do we want it to be? And that's where that third option comes in if we want to go back out. Although going back out does pose a problem probably for one of the proposals in terms of the amount of money, I would think.
But if I understand correctly, if it's not zoned for business, should planning and zoning be involved in this as well before we start spending time and energy into listening to them and meetings if it's not even going to be feasible for them to have a business up there?
From my perspective, and you are the Board of Selectmen, so this is really something that needs to be your perspective, but I imagine that as the policymakers of the town, it would be better for you to dictate to planning and zoning an interest perhaps in reviewing, is this the correct zone for this parcel? Or perhaps is this the correct list of uses that should be permitted within this zone? Those are the two levers that planning and zoning has to move within their regulations to possibly allow a proposal like this. If the answer from this board is that you have no will to make that happen and you like the zone the way it is, you like the parcel in that zone, then there probably is no further conversation to be had, you're right. If, however, you have an interest in having planning and zoning explore that, then I think it would be prudent to specifically request planning and zoning to review that application in particular and figure out, do they see a path forward for it? But I don't think that planning and zoning would be the first stop on that train. I think that there needs to be a will from this body.
Thank you.
Even if he doesn't build it right away, it's still taxable. The building's still taxable, the property's still taxable if he takes ownership of it. And then you can look at logistics, traffic. There are going to be less vehicles going into the area, but they could be larger vehicles. So you could have, you're going to have trucks going up there but the buses are going to be, larger, whatever. But you're going to have less of them than you have of buses. So the traffic impact, is less, but that's, what the neighbors would have to look at.
That's what PZC will have to look at.
Right.
That's nothing we're gonna do.
Right.
Any other discussion? So do we want to set up a meeting on the 7th with the public? Or do we want a different day up at the school?
Fine with me. It would be good, obviously, there on premises for the neighbors. And I would invite P and Z there as well.
It could be like 6 o'clock too, it doesn't have to be later.
Right.
Well, 6 o'clock, it might be kind of dark.
No, 7 o'clock, definitely be dark.
Is there light still?
But the last time I was in there, actually, I believe there is power at this point in time. However, the heating, I believe, is the gas is off.
Right.
And the oil is not being refilled at this moment. So
is it like, is the building been, like all the water and everything drained?
Winterized.
no, I believe that the water has been drained at this point. Yes, but
Oh, so
it's the electricity that's on.
Oh, so then so you couldn't do it there because of the heating thing?
Right.
Okay, I thought
It
everything,
might be cold.
I thought we're still heating.
I don't believe that we're heating
No,
at this
I
moment.
hope,
Okay, so
I
we
hope
did with
not.
dry.
I believe we're in the process of winterizing.
Yeah.
No, we did with Hinsdale or something. It was heating way back when.
Wow, we did? That's crazy. My God.
Oh, that was also still, we weren't sure what was happening to it.
Paying for fuel.
The other thing we could do if we wanted to establish a meeting time is the hour beforehand, we could extend an opportunity for anybody who wants to walk through the building briefly with me. Not so long that heating's going to be an issue or anything like that, but give folks the opportunity to see the inside of it before they're coming to a public meeting. We could even run it for a couple hours beforehand. I'd be happy to lend my time to it.
What about a Saturday? During the day?
Good? In the morning
Yeah,
or late morning,
when the sun's out.
when there's no soccer?
Not that it's going to be any warmer at all.
I think you get more people on a Saturday morning, to be truthful.
I do too. If they really wanted to see it, you know. Because they're, gonna have to be home feeding their kids or getting their kids ready to eat if they're local too, I don't know that they would leave their homes to.
So do we want to go on,
Have a special meeting.
Saturday the 5th?
Saturday, November
12th.
5th?
Not a good weekend?
Maybe not. Maybe we should do the.
That's my problem with all these
Nothing.
weekends.
Nothing's up there.
Veterans Day is November 11th. It's a Friday.
Why not November 5th?
Well, I just didn't know if it was a great day, but.
Mumbles, what?
I was looking to see if it was a good day or not.
Oh, okay.
That's all. Because I thought I had something, but I don't.
I'm okay with the 5th.
Me too.
Linda?
Oh, I think it's great, and planning and zoning as well will be.
We invite
going to
them.
invite them,
Yeah.
All right, so Saturday, November 5th.
and the neighbors.
Yep.
Should give you enough time to get invites out. Go at noon, earlier, later?
Well, I could do
Earlier.
walkthroughs from 9 to 11 and have the meeting at 11.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
People can get on with their day too.
All right, so November 5th, 9 to 11 walkthroughs, 11 o'clock meeting at Bachelor School.
Great.
Anything else on the topic?
Just to confirm, I assume that both of the applicants should be invited. Yeah, and should be prepared to speak briefly. Okay.
Item 14, citizens' comments. Anyone wish to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. David LaPointe, 11 Hillside Avenue, Winston, Connecticut. Speaking for those who cannot speak here tonight, I want to speak in regards to the blight fund policy that our good town manager, Joshua Kelly, proposed. In regards to this policy, it says also real or perceived contaminated lot located perceived. I mean, that's kind of real. You actually know it's happening or perceived, which could be, you get yourself in a lot of litigation. But anyways, it's been said many times before, we've heard this year after year, that some of the biggest blight is the town itself, buildings that the town owns. I want to just say that in regards to the Freedom of Information Act draft ordinance, I want to say I told Town Manager Kelly when I saw him in his office that I agree that there needs to be an ordinance per the charter. I think that's appropriate instead of just a policy. And I think it's good to have a ordinance, but I do not agree with the ordinance in regards to specifically regarding easily viewable documents, no copies made, free of charge. I agree with that. But I would like to also add as an amendment, and I hope you support this amendment, that veterans, disabled veterans, seniors, and the disabled will not be charged for copies that are less than $10. Again, that goes with the statute, as the good town manager has added here at the bottom, for fees collected by the town manager's office. Anything greater than $10 must be paid in advance. So that would enhance what truly the Freedom of Information Act was made for citizens. And I'm sorry, Candace, you can't see me. I'm not trying to avoid you.
I can hear you.
Okay. But the thing is that citizens should have this information if they request it, and the employees who work for the citizens, no matter who they are, should have that right to get that information, especially for those who cannot and are not able to afford it. So I would even add in the amendment, widows, especially widows with children, because that's the righteous thing to do. It's in the good book that we should do that. Also, lastly but not least, I think it's great, and Candy knows this for a fact, Selectwoman Perez knows this, that, and so does Steve Sadilak, and so does Glenn Albanese, our good town clerk, that for many years we've seen properties that the town owned, and we tried to have plans to sell them. So I hope that, yes, there's 3 proposals here, okay, but hopefully we let one of these go forward, because idle buildings, not on the tax rolls, as Selectman Perez has said, are not doing any good for anyone. And we need to move forward, everybody, the town, on this. So if Mr. Nugent is going to make a solid and good proposal, then so be it. If the Northwest Housing Authority is going to make a proposal, and that's solid, and that you have that opportunity, and I think it was a great idea to have people go there, and then also listen to the people. So thank you. I don't think I'm over time, but thank you.
Thank you, David. Ruth? Moving on to item 15, Selectmen's comments and reports. Anyone have anything?
We have 128 students, homeschooled, kindergarten through 6, that are getting ready to paint over 60 windows on Main Street on Saturday. And with the help of the Winstead Fire Department, those windows will be cleaned afterwards.
We have trunk or treat on the 29th, rain day is the 30th. Last day for cars to register, I believe, is Monday the 24th. There's a 40-car limit. And lastly, just a friendly reminder to everyone in the community, especially as we are in election season this year and next year's coming up, signs must be on private property with the owner's permission. They can't be on state property, and they can't be on town property. And also, stealing signs is a crime, punishable by larceny charges. So just keep that in mind. Make sure it's on private property with the owner's permission. Nobody steals them, and it's not on town or state property. With that,
Well, also, if you want to donate candy, deliver it to the town hall, to the town manager's office or the rec department for trunk or treat.
gotta have the candy.
We'll gladly accept candy in the town manager's office. Okay. No, but thank you for mentioning that, Candace.
I move we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Jonathan. All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. See you on November 7th.
November 5th,
November 5th.
Saturday, November,
November.
at Bachelor.
Sorry it was painful.
You too. So Josh, does this go to public works as well? I mean, water and sewer?
It makes note of water and sewer.
I know, does it get, do they get a copy of it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Or Jim gets it, and you can't.
Yep.
Jim would have sent it.